All right, thanks for tuning in once again. It's Ishmael Sistrunk with the St. Louis American and STLamerican.com. Here with me today for In the Clench boxing hangout. We got E. Allen, Mr. Factoid. E, you took a trip out to the fights this weekend where we saw St. Louis's own Devon Alexander get a stoppage, seventh round stoppage. We also saw Lamont Peterson ended up getting knocked out by Lucas Matthysse. But let's start with the hometown fight. Devon Alexander, impressive in his victory. What did you think about it? You were up close and personal with the fight. Tell us first about your experience and what you thought about the Alexander fight.
No doubt about it. Well, my voice is a little bit raspy, so anybody out there that says, man, Factoid doesn't sound as sharp as he normally does, forgive me. I'm still in a little bit of recovery, but overall, an excellent fight weekend. Some fantastic fans traveled, I think, from around the world and to kind of check out the fight card. So I had the opportunity to meet some really cool people. But when we talk about the Devon Alexander fight, coming in, Devon wanted to have a strong performance, a kind of a statement performance, and I thought he definitely delivered some of that on Saturday night. He went out there, was very aggressive offensively, did some good things in terms of letting his hands go. The combination punching was effective offensively, and then also effectively defensively, and what he was able to do, then triggering his offense a second time, stepping to the side and letting shots go after the fact, always ready to reload. So I thought Devon did some really good things. Again, the critics, talked about Devon holding and not having a fan-friendly style. I thought in this fight, though, he gave, the people everything they wanted to see outside of a knockout. He wasn't necessarily able to put Purdy down, and you got to give credit to Purdy there. He was a tough customer. He came in ready to fight. Unfortunately for him, just had not fought at that level before and didn't necessarily shine as bright as he could, maybe under the big lights. But a good performance from him. But overall, I think what Devon did was what he wanted to do, was what fight fans needed to kind of see from him outside of the major knockout. Did some really good things, and I was truly impressed.
Yeah, definitely. We definitely saw much more offensive Devon Alexander with letting his hands go. And we saw Devon and Kevin Cunningham after the fight say he injured his hand in that bout, which may be the reason the knockout didn't come. As we talked off camera a little bit, I actually got a chance to speak with Kevin Cunningham this morning. Going to be writing up a piece on it. But he did confirm to me that Devon Alexander has a broken left hand, and that was part of the reason. I asked him, I said, did Devon tell you it was broken? When did he break it? He said it happened in the first round. Devon didn't immediately tell him, but he noticed in the second round that Devon wasn't throwing that left hand as often as they've been working on. Kevin said that, in their build up to the fight, they really wanted the left hand to be that major weapon, and they were seeking for the knockout with that left. As he noticed in the first two rounds, he really wasn't throwing it. He asked him about it. He said, yeah, I hurt my left hand. So that's when we saw him, because I noticed in the fight he was throwing a lot more right uppercuts than we've seen. The uppercut really has been a tool that he utilized in the past, but we hadn't seen it so much recently. So to see him really, giving that uppercut overtime, and again, Kevin Cunningham said actually the plan was to go with the left uppercut because they felt like Purdy was susceptible to it. But when he hurt the left hand, they had to keep it moving, and he just adjusted. So that may be part of the reason that the knockout didn't come. But I do think it was evident, that Alexander and his camp, they made a concerted effort, hey, we're going to go after this guy, and I don't know how much of that is, like you said, Purdy isn't really an elite level fighter. He's a good fighter. He's a solid fighter. He's not elite level. So you wonder how much of that is because of his class and how much of that is just Devon wanting to, get his name back out there. At one point in time, he was really like the up-and-coming guy. And he had some close fights, like you mentioned, the holding and things like that. So, now I think he's really trying to get back out there, trying to be impressive so he can get some big fights.
Yeah, and I heard as well, it really, I guess when it kind of dawned on me that he wasn't throwing the left hand as much, it was probably about the third or the fourth round. And I saw that he was really relying on the right hand, the hook over the top, throwing the uppercut, and really stayed away from that left hand. I heard actually, when I watched the fight back the next morning, I heard Kevin, he's like, hey, you got to at least put the left hand out there, show him something. And then, of course, go, do the work with the right hand. So it may have definitely played into why he wasn't able to stop the guy. But again, I thought Lee Purdy, he had a little bit of that old Arthur Abraham type of defense going. The hands far up, totally defensive and really not letting a whole lot go. And even though Devon was able to get through some of that guard with some clean, effective shots, I think that made a difference. And I got to give credit to Purdy, at least for being tough. You get to, whether a guy's got power or not, I think if you get hit enough times, Devon cut him up a little bit. You started to see the swelling in Purdy. I think they say he was swallowing some blood, and his corner stepped in and did what they felt was best to kind of save this guy. But, there aren't going to be other opportunities for Lee Purdy. This was probably it. So it's sad to see him, his corner stop the fight. But, again, Devon Alexander did some really good things. And if they made a concerted effort in camp, it was obvious in the fight that he really wanted to focus on the uppercut. And Purdy, again, with the defense, was, I think, susceptible to those shots. And Devon really let it go more than I've probably seen. I don't know if I've seen him let the uppercut go that many times. And, of course, that was the weapon that stopped Urango so successfully a few years back.
Yeah, definitely. And, like I said, to me it all came down to, he was trying to make a statement. He was trying to say, hey, look, I'm a champion. I'm a guy, when you look back, Devon has fought, he hasn't fought any chumps. He's been taking tough guys. He's fought Matthysse, Madonna, Tim Bradley, which he lost that one. But, he's been fighting tough guys back to back to back. Which is one thing when we see some of his performances that weren't all that exciting, you forget about that. Hey, well, he's fighting the best of the best. He's not taking some of these tune-up fights, right, that other guys are taking and billing as, a pay-per-view fight. Mm-hmm. So that's one thing. Another thing impressed me with Devon was the body work. We saw him make a concerted effort to the body, like starting out. So I don't know if they thought that Purdy was just susceptible down there, if they were worried about his power, trying to take that wind out of him early. But we saw from round one, Devon Alexander really, he threw uppercuts and hooks to the body, as well as to the head.
Yeah, I agree with you 110% there. And what I really noticed he was doing, he was stepping around a lot of times and keeping Purdy off balance and attacking that body consistently, as you said. So, Devon, I thought offensively, again, it was really well-rounded, what he did with his hands. And even with a broken hand, it was hard to tell until about the fourth round that he had hurt it. If he hurt it in the first round, a shot, I think, maybe on Purdy's forehead or something like that, the top of the head that hurt him, you really couldn't tell that until, like I said, about the fourth round. And I thought for Devon, there's not much more that he could ask, outside of the performance. I thought he did really well. He looked good. He looked in good shape, was in good spirits. And he worked hard, with 90 days or however long the camp was, waiting for Kell Brook to have to then take Lee Purdy on about a month's notice. I thought he delivered fine.
Yeah, and that, I guess that bout with Kell Brook just wasn't meant to happen. We know that got, postponed, eventually canceled after 3 separate injuries by, each fighter had injury issues going there. One thing that we did hear, though, after or before the final cancellation of that bout, we heard Floyd Mayweather, via Twitter, kind of saying he wanted to get Devon Alexander in the ring. Of course, Kell Brook was the mandatory before he got injured. So I asked Kevin Cunningham, what's next for Devon? We heard talk from Floyd. Was that legitimate? Was that just Floyd talking? Were there, behind the scenes work? And he basically said that, because Kell Brook was the mandatory, that's what they were dealing with at that time. They knew that there was nothing there. They had to fight the mandatory, until the injury, of course. And but he said, of course, Mayweather is, who they're looking for. In Cunningham's eyes, after this win, they were going to try to get in the ring with Floyd Mayweather for a unification bout in September. Mm-hmm. The injury is probably going to push that back. They've confirmed that it's broken, but they haven't actually been to a hand specialist yet. So he doesn't know exactly how long he'll be out. But he says he's probably not going to be able to fight in September, because normally with those hand injuries, you got to sit for 5 or 6 weeks without doing any boxing activity, and then you have to rehab and work your way back up. Mm-hmm. So I think what they're looking for with Devon Maybe Amir Khan's name came up as a strong possibility for something. Amir Khan, we've talked about him on in. That would be an exciting fight. If not Khan, just all these guys around that division. 147 is a strong division right now, and like I said, Devon is a champion, so people got to come see him.
Yeah, I mean, there's from 140 to 54. You're talking about just some really, really top tier talent. And for Alexander, I think it's probably, despite he having a good performance, I think it's going to be disappointing to have the injury now and have to kind of shelve himself again for a little bit longer. But when he gets back in there, again, you talked about Amir Khan. I heard Khan could be maybe December when he comes back, so that could be something they talk about. You're hearing about the guys at 140 like Danny Garcia and some guys at some sort of impromptu tournament. Maybe that guy could move up, maybe challenge a Floyd Mayweather. I know everyone wants him. I heard Paulie Malignaggi saying, look, every fight out right now is an audition for a shot at Floyd Mayweather Jr. at 147 pounds. So he's exactly right. Everyone wants to have a strong performance. And, for Devon, again, he's going to have to wait a little while. And who says that Floyd fights again in September? Mayweather could easily – he hurt his own hand. There was an issue with his own hand, so maybe he waits a little while for that fight. And, the Devon Alexander thing, when I talked with Devon, as Cunningham told you, there was some legitimate – it was some talk, but, again, their focus was totally on Kell Brook because he was the mandatory, and they understood that. So kind of wait and see now to see how his hand heals up and, what the market will kind of dictate for him.
Yeah, and the good thing for Devon, I think, with that performance, like you said, even though he didn't get the straight knockout, as in put Lee Purdy on his butt, he got a stoppage. He was more active. He was more exciting. The broken hand actually may be a blessing, because if he can come back, let's say he fights Amir Khan or he fights another one of the guys in the mix, and he has another impressive performance, and we talked about Khan's chin is suspect. So if he goes in and he knocks out Amir Khan, well, you got two exciting stoppages in a row. I think that makes that Mayweather fight, pretty much a done deal. Because in a strange thing that I learned last week on Twitter, and I still haven't independently verified, haven't heard too many people arguing, so I'm going to accept it as fact. They said that Mayweather has never fought, or he's never unified titles. He's never fought in a bout and unified titles. Now, some of that is, sanctioning bodies stripping fighters before the fight and this and that. But, when you look at a career as illustrious as Mayweather's, the fact that he hasn't unified, belts, by fighting another champion, that's interesting. And that's got to be something that, that has to eat at him a little bit.
You would think so. So it seems to me that Floyd's concern has always been about, being the WBC guy, being recognized as the best, and he never really cared to have the belts unified. But I find it interesting as well. He puts, I think, a lot more value on the undefeated mark, the 44-0, than he does about having, I guess, as you could say, the trinket titles in all the different weight classes. So that is interesting, though. That's one I didn't know. So I find that kind of interesting as well. I don't know that he'll ever really care about unifying belts, but if he has a chance to, especially in this last 6 fights, why not maximize everything you can, make your legacy as strong as you can on the way out? Because as he said, I've got 30 months or 6 fights and it's over. So do everything you can to say, hey, I didn't just care about the record. I did everything that I could outside of fighting Manny Pacquiao to let people know that I was the best in the world.
Yeah, and I think he absolutely has to. I mean, if he wants to have a legitimate claim at being one of the all-time greats, I mean, you have to unify titles. Like that's huge. And like I said, some of it, he's fought some guys who were champions and he was a champion, and just sanctioning body shenanigans, greedy organizations, but that's still crazy for a career this long to never have done that. Yeah. That's just crazy. Yeah. But going on to the main event bout, we saw Lucas Matthysse get a spectacular knockout, Lamont Peterson. How was the energy in that, and were you expecting that outcome?
The fight, let me say this about the fight crowd first and foremost. And I was there from, the time the doors opened until this thing closed. And, the crowd filtered in slowly. By the time you got to the main event, there was some good energy. Argentina traveled out pretty well to see Lucas Matthysse. You had quite a few fans from the D.C. area. And, of course, that kind of the eastern part of the country were there to kind of support Lamont Peterson. They had a tremendous pop from the crowd when they kind of announced his name. So there was good energy in the building. Coming in, I kind of thought Peterson had a chance maybe to go the distance with Matthysse. I thought it was definitely a 50-50 fight, and one that I wouldn't be surprised if Matthysse, with the one-punch knockout power that he has, could stop Lamont Peterson. So when that happened, I believe the third round, not surprising. Peterson fought well, I thought, in the first round. I thought he boxed and he moved in the first round. He stayed out of the pocket, stayed, moving and kept his balance and things going. Didn't stand right in front of Lucas and give him an easy target to hit. I think he got touched maybe at the end of the first round with a couple of shots. But outside of that, I thought he won the first round. And then the second round, it went out the window. He fought right in front of the guy, and Matthysse is just too hard of a puncher, to be standing in front of him. He took care of business, and from there it was really just a whitewash, man. It was all Lucas and Peterson. I liked he was humble in the post fight, but there was nothing he could do, man. And once he changed his game plan, got out of his style, he was right there in game to be taken out by Matthysse.
Yeah, and I think it was a brilliant tactical move by Matthysse. I can't remember if it was. I think it was the start of the second round where he started trying to rough Peterson up a little bit, pushing him around, shoving him. And I think that's what got Peterson like, okay, I'm going to stand and trade. You're going to try to, be a little rough, well, let's go. And that was just a terrible decision. Yeah. But I think it was a strategic, move by Matthysse. He knew, hey, I don't want this guy on the outside boxing. I want to get him in, and test that chin out. And that's what he did.
Yeah, once, and he bullied him. He started bullying him. And anytime a boxer doesn't want to be bullied, he wants to box. And Matthysse is a brawler. He's a bully. He's a tough guy. And as you said, he changed the game plan on him. And Peterson, from that point, he just didn't go back to. It was too late. It was really too late for him. Matthysse did everything he wanted from there. And when he knocked him down the first time, it was kind of a grazing shot, and it took Lamont a second to go down. And he kind of recovered from that, as he said, in the kind of the post-fight. But when he touched him again, I think in the third round with the big shot that put him down, that was really it. It was all she wrote for Lamont Peterson. And the thing that I didn't necessarily care about this fight, no titles were on the line. It ended up being kind of a catch-weight type of fight. But I think fight fans now see that, if they didn't know already, fight fans already knew that Matthysse was special, but maybe some casual folks now see just how good this guy is by putting Lamont Peterson down. And Peterson was game. He's definitely a tough world-class fighter, a world champion. But Matthysse right now is just on a roll it's hard when you look at guys across the board in boxing. Is there a guy on a bigger role in terms of what he's doing knocking guys out than Lucas Matthysse?
Yeah, and I think he has the top knockout percentage in boxing right now, which is definitely impressive. But like you mentioned, some of those shots on Peterson, a lot of them were kind of grazing blows. Like he didn't even connect flushly where I would think that he would be that hurt. Especially like that first one. When it initially happened, I said, well, maybe he tripped over that camera. Some cameramen down there, because it just didn't look like a hard shot, but I guess when you're throwing, with that much power, and of course, where they hit you matters, if you get hit in the temple or you get hit in the right area, but those didn't look like hard blows. So that, that makes me concerned for who he may face next, because if he catches you on the chin, catch you with a flush shot, what's that going to do? Because Peterson, he was a done deal pretty much after that first one. He never fully got his legs back.
Mm-mm. And Lamont is known coming in. I was like, he could touch the canvas once or twice. And I was like, well, he'll get up. He's always gotten up before. That's great. But, you're still touching the canvas. And, I think the first knockdown was a punch that kind of grazed the forehead. And again, it's like 5 seconds later, it's like his left ankle just kind of gave out and he went down. And, Lamont, again, he did what he could, which is just in the end it wasn't enough. And he did kind of talk about a shot to the back of the head that had him a little bit dizzy. But, as he talked about, again, I recovered from that. And, he just hit me with good shots and put me down. It was Lucas Matthysse he's as tough as they come. And we talked about Marcus Maidana before when Devon fought him previously. And there's such a kind of a feeling around these guys that they eat nails, that they're super tough. And Matthysse gives me every reason to believe that he probably does eat that for breakfast, because that guy's he's just a beast in there.
Now, what does that say about Devon Alexander? Which again, he fought Matthysse, won a close bout. I think it was disputed. I think Devon did go down in that fight, maybe in the 4th round. But what does it say that you got a guy like Lamont Peterson, who, like you said, is a champion, a world-class fighter. He gets dusted early. Devon Alexander, whether you agree with the decision or not, it was a close fight. He was able to, withstand that power. Is there a potential for a rematch there if Matthysse comes up?
There could be a possibility. I think Matthysse at this point, though, is probably a better fighter now than he was even when he fought Devon at 140. And he's shown he's got the power that he's carried from 40. At 40, if he moved up to 47, I think he'd probably still carry his power. The thing that concerns me about Devon Alexander, and I talk with quite a few people about this, and I'll just be perfectly honest here, Devon, outside of the Urango knockout, just doesn't have the type of punching power, I think, that a lot of times will make guys, stay honest. And I wouldn't want to necessarily see him in there against Matthysse again. I think it would be a good fight, but I don't know if, that's the fight that Devon would want. The power is just a concern for me outside of the tremendous boxing skill. He just hasn't been able to put guys down, keep them down. So I don't know if that's a rematch that happens. I think Matthysse, though, could go on and fight a lot of guys. Danny Garcia is the guy right now. If we go back to what's really happening there in terms of the WBC, Danny Garcia is the legit champion. He's #1. Lucas holds the interim belt at WBC. So that's the fight that seems like probably should go down. Again, talking with folks, no one seems to think that Danny Garcia in his camp, his dad, will want to take on Lucas Matthysse. They're thinking maybe that Danny will look to fight somebody else first. So I don't know. I mean, I think Matthysse, the sky's the limit for this guy right now. I think he definitely deserves finally a shot at a legitimate world title, because he's been kind of avoided and put to the back burner on several occasions now. He's legit, and it's time for the fight fans to see him in a major bout. Not that the Peterson fight wasn't, but one that he's in there with an opportunity to become a legitimately recognized top-tier world champion.
Yeah, and that is interesting what you say about Garcia, because I saw a quote this morning, I believe, and they were asking him about Matthysse, did he want the fight, and he said, "Oh, I'm the champion. I don't call out fighters. If people, if they want the title, they need to come to me."
Right.
And so I can see some people looking at that as he may be wanting to avoid that fight. My personal is just a hunch. I think he would take the fight, and I think it would be an excellent fight to see. That Garcia, we know he's not the most technically sound fighter, but he has heart, he has a good chin, he has a good punch. So I think with those two matched up, I mean that would be an exciting fight. That would be a tremendous fight to see, and I couldn't even pick a winner right now. Coming off of the big knockout, of course everybody's high on Matthysse, but Garcia, he's been impressive lately, and like I said, he's shown that he has a good chin, he has good heart. So, I think that'll be a very interesting fight, and I hope they can get it together.
It's one of those things, people always talk about similar opponents, and now over the last couple of years, these guys have several similar opponents. When you're talking about Danny Garcia and Lucas Matthysse, from Zab Judah to Amir Khan, and they've seen some of the same guys, and the results have been interesting. So I think it'd be a really good fight. It's one that I definitely pay to see, and I'd be excited. I'm sure a lot of definitely hardcore fans would definitely be excited to see it as well. But Lucas Matthysse right now is on a very special role, and it's one that deserves the props. Now, I did see this, and I'll throw this out there. Someone said that Lucas Matthysse is now a superstar, and I had to disagree with that wholeheartedly. As much as I like him, and I think it was a star-quality performance, you don't become a superstar off of beating Lamont Peterson, and that's no knock on Lamont. He's, again, a good world champion, but his name wasn't big enough to become world, a superstar, even off a win like that. I mean, you got to beat somebody who the people really know outside. So I like Matthysse a lot. I think he's doing some good things. And he's a fun guy to watch, and he delivers fun, exciting fights and tremendous knockouts.
Yeah, definitely. And we live in a world of hyperbole where everybody likes to, oh, he's a great. I even cringe when I hear the word "great" associated with fighters all the time because it doesn't matter what fighter. Oh, he's a great fighter, or it's like, no, he's good, but he's not great, or he's a superstar. No.
Yeah. The word gets overused in everything now. Great gets thrown around too much everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, you take that with a grain of salt, but he is an exciting fighter, and nowadays that can put you on the path. You get the right opponents, and he can become a superstar. Speaking of superstars, we can segue again. Last week we were off with Mother's Day, so we didn't really get to talk about it, but Manny Pacquiao, Brandon Rios, that fight has been signed. That'll be coming up a little later in the year. It's an interesting fight. Both of them are coming off of tough defeats. Your early thoughts on that fight?
Happy to see it, and it's one that we talked about. I think a few weeks ago. It's like, well, who does Pacquiao fight? And I threw out, of course, Brandon Rios because Bob Arum talked about him about 2 years ago, 3 years ago. A few years from now, he will be a guy that we're going to put in there, top rank, and we're going to go head up with Rios and Pacquiao. So I like the fight. I expected Pacquiao to probably come in maybe a little softer with his opponent off of getting knocked out against Marquez like that. But you bring in a guy like Bam Bam Rios, another really, and that was a great fight again with Alvarado. Those two fights they had were legitimately great. So, I think it's a good fight. It's one that we're going to see what does Manny Pacquiao really have left when he gets in there against Brandon Rios, because Rios can take as well as he gives in there. He's not a super skilled guy, but he's got major heart. He's come forward. He's all action. So for Pacquiao, you would think with Rios kind of a stand in front of you type of guy that he's almost somewhat tailor-made. But again, we're going to see what does Pacquiao have left in terms of his punching power. What does he have left in terms of his movement? But I think on paper, definitely exciting, and one that I look forward to seeing in Macau. And I guess Pacquiao will fight there for the first time in his career. So, HBO, or I guess HBO kind of changing it up, doing some different things there with their marketing and exposure of Manny.
Yeah, and I think Arum has said Pacquiao's not going to fight in the U.S. anymore again. That remains to be seen. Any time where there's money to be made, but I think he's trying to get away from some of those taxes, lower tax rates in other countries. But I agree with you. It's exciting fight, and like you said, it'll tell us a lot about Pacquiao after his loss. Devastating knockout. We've heard a lot of people suggest, oh, he should retire. That's you can't recover from a knockout like that, which, I'm never in the mood to just tell a fighter you need to retire. Unless it's to the point, like Roy Jones right now, you need to retire. It's,
right.
It's right. Well beyond your expiration.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well beyond it. Well beyond it. Yeah, I think and when I look at Rios, it looks like quick technical issue.
Manny,
there we go.
Had one, it's just lost. Okay, yeah, I think we froze up a little bit, but yeah, Roy is well beyond.
And Rios.
Yeah, go ahead. I think we're
in and out. We're in and out. No problem. This is what we do. In terms of Rios, though, this is a lot. It's a big fight for him. You're coming off the losses. You had the win, and you have the loss there. And I think for him against Pacquiao, he needs to come out and have a really strong performance himself. There's only such a window even open for a guy like this. Now he's always going to, I think, have opportunity to get exciting fights, but this is the world top tier, type of fight that Brandon Rios even needs to say, has he developed? We go back to maybe a Richard Abril fight, last year before, year and a half or so ago. Didn't necessarily look great, was exposed in some of his, his offensive work. So, where Rios is in this fight, I think is also pretty important beyond just having a beard and being a tough guy. What can you deliver against a guy like Pacquiao? So it's a big fight for him too.
Yeah, definitely, and it'll be exciting. This is one of those fights where you expect going into it, somebody's going to get knocked out, and that may not happen. Before this, bout, Pacquiao, his chin had stood up, wants to be down a little bit. But both of them have crazy power. Both of them have fight-ending power. So that's what makes it so exciting. Like you said, Pacquiao decided, no, I'm not going to fight a tune-up. And he may have been thinking, hey, let me take on a tough guy. Like you said, he's slower, Pacquiao. His speed should win the fight. His speed and power should. But it may have been him saying, okay, let me take this tough guy. If I get stopped here, then maybe we can look at retirement, But Pacquiao could very well, get an exciting knockout, and maybe that puts, some bigger fights back into play. Maybe that pulls Mayweather's name, back out. Maybe, Pacquiao is still, even coming off of those losses, I mean, he's still a superstar fighter to where a guy like Matthysse may say, hey, let me go up. If I can't get Garcia, maybe I can't get Floyd. Let me try to move up and get Pacquiao, because that would be a huge money fight. So it's definitely interesting. And we heard some rumors about Pacquiao getting arrested last week. Yeah. Those turned out to be bogus, to be refuted. So don't pay any of that any mind. But we know Pacquiao, he always has distractions going on, man.
Yeah, it's when you got that many hats, you're a politician and you're an entertainer. Sometimes when we touch on Jimmy Kimmel and you're fighting, he's got so much going on, man. It's always distractions around the Pacquiao camp. But yeah, I think it's going to be fight definitely has a lot of potential, has fight of the year type of potential with these two guys who step in there just based on the all action styles. And while it's hard to predict who would win it now, Pacquiao, the activity that he often has, getting a lot of shots off, Rios being there in front of you, you probably favor Pacquiao to get the win. But anything I think could happen in that type of bout and should be pretty fun to watch.
Yeah, and I guess before we sign off here, we hadn't mentioned Mosley Cano fight. Shane Mosley came out with an unexpected victory. I don't think either of us actually bothered to watch the fight, which says a little bit about Shane Mosley. But what does that do for him? Because he had pretty much been kind of, that fight. What was it on Versus or
Epics or I'm not certain
or whatever.
Yeah,
but he's fallen, off of that mainstream. Does this put him back in a position to kind of rekindle some of that Sugar Shane Mosley, or is it basically same as it was before?
It's hard to say without seeing the quality of the fight, seeing the performance from Shane. I mean, what did he have? Was it what he did, or was it what Cano didn't do? It's hard to say. I definitely want to watch the fight and kind of evaluate from there. But to be honest, I mean, I think Shane Mosley's days, as a lot of guys, it's past. It's not. He's not one of the guys right now that should be getting, I think, big money fights and world title fights. You beat Cano, that's fine. I mean, I saw the Cano in there with Malinaji in a fight where it was close, and Paulie got the W there. But it's hard to say. I don't think that Shane Mosley at this point deserves to be fighting, world-class world title fights. But he can still be an exciting guy to watch. He's a journeyman. He still has a great name and can still probably draw some fans in.
Yeah. And since I said I don't like to tell people to retire, I'm not going to tell Shane Mosley to retire. But definitely interesting. And I'll probably try to catch the fight. But again, Mosley at this point, I mean, he's passed. He's kind of moonlighting, which, hey, he deserves to be able to do that. Professional sports, and especially boxing, put Bernard Hopkins aside. But boxing, we see a lot of fighters who are retiring by 32, 34, 35, maybe 40, and it's not like other sports. Like once you're done, you're done, and that's all these guys have done for 20, 30 years. So hey, if he wants to go out there, as long as he's not getting himself hurt, why not?
I mean, as long as you don't suffer, the bad knockouts, and you're able to articulate yourself and carry yourself in your business and do things, and so be it. But, for Shane, though, those glory days are long gone. The De La Hoya fights and fighting Winky Wright and the Vernon Forrest of the world, it's over. And that's 10 years ago now. So good for him. He's fighting a guy like Cano on his way up or trying to do something. Good for Shane. He's got his son is out there fighting or trying to fight. So continue to be a mentor to him and do your best that you can. But I don't, Shane those days are past us. Yeah.
Maybe he needs to try to put on a trainer's hat or something like that. But we'll see. He's got a little more life. He beat Kanoa, a younger fighter.
Yeah.
So we'll see. But I think you're right. I don't think we're going to see him in any pay-per-view bouts or anytime soon. Nor should we. So with that, I don't know. Do you have anything else to add before we head out?
Other than that, I mean, some of the young Olympians did fight on the AC card. I believe you had Rashay Warren out there, Jamel Herring, a couple of guys that were Olympians. Did their thing in short fights. Like I said, it was 11 fight card out there in Atlantic City. So a couple of the young Olympians did their thing. Some pretty decent talent on the card. A young man, I believe, Anthony Gogo. I want to make sure I get his first name right just to verify him. Gogo was solid. Yeah, British kid. Took care of business. That was a pretty good fight. Like to see him probably have a little more power. I think that was only his second fight professionally. So a pretty good card. You had Sean Porter against Phil LaGreco, which was kind of hyped up from the Greco side of things in terms of his camp. One of Paulie Malignaggi's guys. So Sean Porter went out, kind of really handled him for, 10 rounds. So a pretty good card in Atlantic City. Other than that, not a whole lot. I was sorry I missed the Mayweather recap a couple of weeks ago. Definitely Floyd took care of business. I had it pretty much a wide card against Guerrero. So good stuff, man. It just it was fun to be in Atlantic City again. A lot of great people traveled out. Kicked it with some cool British guys. We were awesome. So always cool to link up with the boxing heads, man. Fantastic folks.
Yeah, and that's talking about the British fans. That's one thing when Kevin Cunningham, when I was speaking with him, and when he mentioned Amir Khan, and I asked him, I said, will that be, if that happens, is that going to be here? Is that going to be in England? He said, if that happens, it's going to be here. It's no reason to go over to England to fight him. I guess, money-wise, there may be, but, considering Devon's a champion. But that may be an exciting fight to try to get down to, hit that. That will probably be in Vegas if it happens. Like you said, maybe December, that type of time frame. So that may be something to try to head down to because the British fans will be there in full effect. And, that'd just be a great fight to watch.
No doubt. That's all I had, man.
All righty. Well, thanks again for tuning in, everybody. Once again, I'm Ishmael Sistrunk with the St. Louis American and STLamerican.com, here with Mr. Factoid E. Allen from Halestorm Sports. Factoid, where else can people follow you at?
Check me out, as he said, on Twitter at Mr. Factoid. You can even hit up my Facebook page, eFactoid Allen. Check out all the great content over at HalestormSports.com. Check out my radio show on HalestormSports.com and Blog Talk Radio each and every Thursday night, 10 p.m. Central. Sports with Mr. Factoid. I'll be talking about the AC fight card this Thursday, NBA playoffs, a lot of stuff that's going on. So you definitely want to check me out. Ish, man, fantastic work as always. Thanks so much for having me on, brother.
Appreciate you coming out. Like I said, I'm gonna have a more detailed write-up of my interview with Kevin Cunningham and just talking about the fight this weekend. I don't know if I'll wait till Thursday to put that out with the paper. It may come a little bit early. Also going to be doing something on the NBA playoffs this week as well. So a lot of good things going on in boxing and sports in general, the NBA playoffs. So appreciate having you on. Appreciate you for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe. And again, STLamerican.com. You can see me on Twitter, and we'll have all those links below. All right, peace out.
Take it easy.